hiking taxes on $60 billion worth of American imports. Turmoil on financial markets as China's retaliation reverberates around the world. The Dow and the S&P 500 plunged more than 2% on Monday. Plus, we'll tell you how South Korean markets opened this morning in just a moment. Plus, plagued by a stagnant economy, high youth unemployment and a stalling peace process with North Korea, President Moon Jae-in is set to order his ministers to make sure the administration's third year in office shifts the needle in a positive direction. Our top story this morning, the ongoing U.S. China trade war dialed up a notch on Monday, with Beijing announcing it was raising tariffs on tens of billions of dollars in American imports. The move is Beijing's blunt answer to President Trump's recent tariff hike on Chinese goods. It's not yet clear at this point whether the return of tit-for-tat penalties will push Beijing or Washington closer to a deal. Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
It was a move widely expected by all sides. China finally pulled the trigger on Monday, hiking tariffs on $60 billion in American goods as it smashed back against President Trump's latest tariff hike on $200 billion in Chinese goods. Beijing's Ministry of Finance said it was increasing tariffs on goods ranging from liquefied natural gas to frozen spinach and even everyday household goods like toothpaste, in what they called a response to U.S. unilateralism and trade protectionism. According to Beijing, nearly 2,500 items from the U.S. would be subject to tariffs of 25% from June 1st. They include LNG, agricultural items such as natural honey, compounds such as potassium sulfate, which is commonly used in fertilizer, and a number of manufactured goods such as LED light bulbs. On two other lists, covering 1,078 and 974 items, tariffs will be raised to 20% to 10% respectively. The products on those lists include many household goods. A smaller list of items will not see an increase beyond the current level of 5%. Observers say that with the Chinese tariffs not taking effect for more than 2 weeks, it gives negotiators some time to strike a deal. China says U.S. policies are threatening the existence of the World Trade Organization, setting out a string of grievances in a WTO reform proposal, which was uploaded on the organization's website on Monday. While China did not name the U.S. directly, it referred to the block on the appointment of WTO appeals judges and national security tariffs on aluminum, steel, and automobiles, policies which are uniquely associated with the United States. It added a certain member of the WTO had unilaterally raised trade barriers and imposed import tariffs in an arbitrary way and without authorization from the organization. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, amid the latest escalation in trade tensions between the two countries, President Trump revealed on Monday that he will meet face-to-face with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit late next month.
Maybe something will happen. We're going to be meeting, as you know, at the G20 in Japan, and that'll be, I think, probably a very fruitful meeting. But
he said he believes China wants to strike a deal, even as he called Beijing out for reneging earlier this month on key portions of the deal being negotiated between the two economic superpowers. Trump added his administration is planning to provide about $15 billion in aid to help American farmers whose products are targeted by China's tariffs.
I would like to just say that it's an honor to...
And with the worsening trade dispute happening now between the U.S. and China, global shares plunged on Monday, with the Dow Jones and S&P 500 both tumbling more than 2%. South Korean shares also dropped on the first day of the trading week, while South Korea's local currency was trading at its lowest point against the greenback in over 2 years. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Shares prices plummeted around the world on Monday following China's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports worth $60 billion, signaling an escalation in the trade war between the world's two largest economies. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P 500 closed 2.38 and 2.41% lower on Monday as investors dumped trade-sensitive shares. The Dow was even down more than 700 points or nearly 3% in the afternoon, with global aircraft manufacturer Boeing and equipment and machinery giant Caterpillar falling the most. Both companies get a significant amount of revenue from China and could lose heavily if the trade war lingers. Intel and Apple also dropped as 25% and 18% of their revenue comes from China, according to FactSet data. The plunge in Apple shares also came after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that consumers are now able to pursue an antitrust lawsuit against a company for exerting monopoly power through its App Store. The S&P 500 and tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite had their worst day of the year. Major European stock markets also slayed, with the Pan-European Stock 600 index dropping 1.2%. At their close, Frankfurt DAX and Paris CAC 40 dropped 1.52 and 1.22% respectively. Kim Hye-sun, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to that report, South Korea's main stock index opened lower again on this Tuesday following the latest uptick in trade tensions between the U.S. and China. As of 9:45 a.m. Korea time, around 25 minutes ago, the benchmark Kospi was trading 15 points or 0.8% lower at 2,063. The tech-heavy Kosdaq, that was down over 1% at just over 700. The Korean won, as we just heard there, has fallen to the 1,191 level against the greenback. That's a low not seen since January 2017. According to the Bank of Korea, the won to dollar exchange rate plunged almost 3% during the April to May period. The depreciation of the won against the dollar was only exceeded by Turkey's lira and Argentina's peso. South Korea's export prices rose for the third consecutive month. In April, the Bank of Korea says the export price index came to 83.48. That's up 0.5% from March. Prices of electronics goods exports fell, but higher prices of petroleum products lifted overall export prices. The BOK said import prices went up 1.5%, mainly on higher prices of global oil and raw materials and a higher $1 exchange rate. South Korea's benchmark Dubai crude rose 6% on month, recording an average of nearly $71 a barrel in April. Now, over at South Korea's top office this morning, President Moon Jae-in is likely to call on members of his cabinet to turn up their efforts to help turn around the South Korean economy as the administration officially enters its third year this week. During his weekly cabinet meeting, the president is also likely to mention resuming his quarterly meetings with the leaders of the 5 political parties to handle issues including the passage of an extra budget bill and the provision of food aid to North Korea. Also at the meeting, the government is set to decide on using some $31 million of state reserves to help support the recovery in Gangwon-do province from the wildfire damage last month. Now, a group of 9 traditional Confucian academies here in South Korea, they're called Seoul in Korean, are one step closer to being added to the UNESCO World Heritage list. UNESCO's evaluation agency, the International Council on Monuments and Sites, recommended on Tuesday that the sites be added to this list. Sewon are private Confucian academies established during Korea's Joseon dynasty to honor renowned scholars and educate young people. The final decision will be made at the World Heritage Committee meeting in Azerbaijan at the end of June. If listed, Sewon will become Korea's 14th item on the World Heritage list. Now, the head of the UN's World Food Programme sat down on Monday with Seoul's ministers of unification and foreign affairs. The WFP reportedly requested South Korea's help to improve nutrition for infants and pregnant women in North Korea. Oh Jung-hee reports.
Seoul says it'll review the UN Food Agency's formal request for humanitarian aid for North Korea. The executive director of the World Food Programme, David Beasley, met with South Korea's ministers of unification and foreign affairs on Monday.
I thoroughly read the recent joint report by the WFP and FAO on North Korea's food situation. I agree with the WFP that humanitarian issues and politics have to be separated.
The WFP chief highlighted that the recent report reveals the worrisome food security situation in the north. He promised that any funding will be used according to the donors' desire.
The officials of North Korea gave us access unprecedented. We did what we would normally do in terms of assessing what is the nutrition and food security situation. Whatever we do, we will assure the donors that the food and any assistance will meet their objectives. We'll have monitoring systems in place.
Following the meeting, the Unification Ministry announced the WFP asked for Seoul's assistance to improve the nutrition conditions of infants and pregnant women in the north, adding it'll review the matter. Seoul is also considering sending direct food aid to the north, but internal discussions on when that could happen or whether that should happen still need to be held.
This week, South Korea's unification minister will be having a series of meetings with civic and religious groups as well as local experts to hear their opinions on providing food aid to North Korea. After Pyongyang launched short-range missiles into the EC last week, the Seoul government said that forming a social consensus first is crucial in providing assistance to North Korea. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to that report, President Moon Jae-in met with the World Food Programme's executive director on Monday to discuss humanitarian food aid to North Korea. According to the top office, David Beasley briefed the South Korean leader on the WFP's recent joint research with the Food and Agriculture Organization on the North's worsening food situation, underscoring the need for urgent humanitarian assistance. President Moon agreed to cooperate closely with the World Food Programme on ways to deliver food aid to the North. He also said South Korea will not forget the help it received from the WFP in the past at times of tremendous hardship and promised to actively support the international body in other issues as well. Acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan says Washington's diplomatic approach to North Korea is still in place despite the regime's recent firings of short-range missiles. In an interview with Fox News on Monday, Shanahan said, quote, "The strategy with North Korea hasn't changed, the diplomatic one," when explaining the Trump administration's goal of denuclearization. He added, however, that his job is to make sure the U.S. is prepared in the event diplomacy fails, saying that his focus comes with the military as well. Shanahan's remarks come after North Korea launched 2 short-range missiles into the East Sea last week. Now, a handful of South Korean films have been invited to this year's prestigious Cannes International Film Festival in the south of France, which starts its 12-day run on Tuesday, and with more foreign movie distributors keeping extra close tabs on the local industry, South Korean films look set to expand their presence in the international movie sphere. Lee Min-sun has this report.
The 2019 Cannes Film Festival has invited some new South Korean films to join the glitz and glamour in the south of France. They include Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, and Lee Won-tae's The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil. These films are generating a lot of buzz in the movie world, especially with the recent pre-sale record set by The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil. It has proved so popular that Sylvester Stallone's Balboa Productions has bought the rights to remake the film. Lee Won-tae's film attracted buyers with 3-minute-long promotion clips at the American film market last year, and a staggering 104 countries decided to buy and premiere the film in their country's cinemas. The original movie stars popular Korean actor Ma Dong-seok. Ma will also play the leading role in the Hollywood remake.
I think the concept of the film, a gangster cooperating with a police officer to catch a murder, is really captivating to foreign buyers. Also, having actor Ma Dong-seok as one of the leading roles contributed to the appeal of the film. There it is, the 3 components of a successful movie: a trustworthy production, a well-known actor, and a hooking concept.
Pre-sales of Korean films have been increasing since the 2010s through international film markets at film festivals dotted around the world. A pre-sale in the movie industry is signing a deal to screen a film before production is complete. Recently, a growing number of Korean films have been sold to an increasing number of foreign countries. Train to Busan was sold to 156 countries, and Along with the Gods, The Two Worlds, and Along with the Gods, The Last 49 Days to 107 countries.
Korean movies started to command attention at international events and film festivals with film directors like Bong Joon-ho, Park Chan-wook, and Kim Ji-woon. That's when Korean films started to turn heads, changing the way Korean movies are viewed locally and globally.
With the Korean wave spreading across the globe, industry watchers say the ongoing popularity of Korean films around the world will cement South Korea's status as a country that produces reliable and entertaining films. However, they emphasize the importance of creating more unique and eye-catching content to ensure South Korea hangs on its prized position. 이민선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, an American explorer has completed what's claimed to be the deepest manned sea dive ever recorded. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hong Yu. So this is a remarkable achievement, there's no denying that, but the explorer returned to the surface with some depressing news. There's plastic trash all the way down there.
Unfortunately, yes, Mark. Victor Vescovo, a retired naval officer from Texas, made the unsettling discovery as he dived around 10.9 kilometers under the ocean to a point in the Pacific Ocean's Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth. It's the deepest solo dive in history, but Vescovo found out that even at the deepest point on the planet, plastic waste such as plastic bags and candy wrappers could be observed. Details of the voyage were released for the first time on Monday. Vescovo said he and his team had undertaken the challenge to test the limits of human endeavors as much as scientific discovery.
It was an amazing experience. It was an amazing dive. I think almost exactly 12 hours, about 3.5 down, 4 hours on the bottom. I think the longest anyone's ever been on the bottom of the Challenger Deep, and then about 4 hours up. I went through pretty much all of my electrical power and had to be swapping batteries around and circuits around. It was a great journey. Saw some really interesting things on the bottom.
Over the last 3 weeks, the expedition has made 4 dives in the Mariana Trench and Vescovo submarine DSV limiting factor, collecting biological and rock samples as well as 4 new species that could offer clues about the origins of life on Earth. The team said its scientists are going to perform tests on these samples to determine the percentage of plastics found in them. 4 commercial cargo ships have been targeted by sabotage attacks near the UAE, with 2 of them known to be oil tankers from Saudi Arabia. This comes amid military tensions between the U.S. and Iran over the vital Strait of Hormuz oil shipping channel. The Associated Press quoted the Saudi energy minister as saying the country's oil tankers were significantly damaged. Although the event did not result in casualties or a spill, it could still affect the delivery of the shipment. World oil prices reacted to the news, with prices of popular oil blends, Brent and WTI, both increasing amid fears about a global supply crunch. Doris Day, the American singer turned actress and animal welfare activist, has died at the age of 97. Day was known for a string of successful hits, musicals to romantic comedies, including Que Sera Sera, that won an Oscar for Best Original Song in 1956, and her starring roles in movies such as Pillow Talk and Calamity Jane. Her popularity peaked co-starring with Rock Hudson. The Doris Day Animal Foundation confirmed the Hollywood legend died on Monday at her home in California. She was said to have been surrounded by a few close friends as she passed.
Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information that we do hope is useful for your everyday life. We're going to start with a bit of health news today. And unless they are visibly sick or hurt, it can be rather difficult to know whether a child, your child, needs medical treatment. Now, experts here in Korea have lined up some childhood conditions that are hard to miss, but can also be left untreated sometimes. Park Se-young with more.
This child's eyes are straight and clear because he had surgery to correct a squint last year. Intermittent strabismus is often missed because the eye turn can be observed only occasionally, but leaving it without treatment can cause problems later on.
The angle and frequency of the squint can increase and worsen cosmetic issues. Leaving a squint as it is can lead to further problems and make surgery more difficult.
When a child shows abnormal head positions or says the sunlight is too bright, it could be a sign of squint. Squint can be treated with surgery, but glasses and regular examinations are needed as it comes with a 30% chance of recurrence. Lazy eye, which cannot be corrected by glasses or contact lenses, is also a common pediatric eye problem. Since it does not usually cause symptoms, children between 4 and 5 years of age should be screened for it.
Lazy eye diagnosed after 10 years of age is difficult to cure.
Children should also be observed for teeth and jaw deformities like missing a permanent tooth, uneven teeth, protruding lips, and short and long chins. These conditions make it difficult for children to chew and cut food and can cause them to mouth breathe.
There are many with class 2 malocclusion, where the lower jaw is smaller than the upper jaw or when the upper jaw protrudes.
Experts emphasize the importance of regular checkups when children are between 4 and 5 years of age to spot hidden conditions and treat them early. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, a new study shows patients with rheumatoid arthritis experience functional difficulties and disabilities for as long as 2 years before they're actually diagnosed. The Mayo Clinic says difficulties with daily activities like dressing, walking and eating can be seen in patients a year or two before diagnosis. The researchers say this may affect an accumulation of symptoms between the time of onset and the time required for experts to diagnose patients. They added their study shows the importance of early treatment, as they found increased levels of difficulty with daily activities continued even after patients began treatment. Symptoms can include joint pain or swelling, but 40% of patients experience symptoms that don't involve the joints, like fatigue, fever, and loss of appetite. The all-new Apple TV app, which enables users to watch a handful of TV channels with a single application, launched on Monday in over 100 countries around the world via iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, and even Samsung smart TVs. U.S. consumers around the world can watch on-demand popular shows like HBO and Showtime, with more to be added over time around the world. Apple also aims to offer its own original TV shows, including ones from Oprah Winfrey and Steven Spielberg. The service can also be featured on all 2019 Samsung smart TVs and select 2018 TV models with a firmware update.
Good morning. Temperatures hovered right around the seasonal average yesterday, but it didn't rise as much as we expected due to lots of clouds coverage. And for today, it's going to be warmer and sunnier, so we might miss the morning breeze. And the sunshine will boost UV rays to very high levels across much of the country. So wear sunblock and sunglasses on your way out. Meanwhile, dry weather advisories have been in place for much of the country for nearly 10 days now. So a sunny, dry, and warm afternoon is in the forecast, with highs ranging between 22 and 28 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Meanwhile, the capital area will see high levels of fine dust all day today, and Gyeongsang-Namdo province could see some sporadic rain with thunder and lightning in the afternoon. A warm and sunny stretch of weather will dominate across much of the country. and the nation is set to heat up, with temperatures peaking at 30 degrees Celsius by the afternoon on Friday. So it's going to feel more like July for the next couple of days. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to us here on Arirang TV. And a reminder that our next newscast is coming up at noon, Korea time, with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.
Planning a self-guided tour in Korea? We'll let you peek at the most beautiful hours from dawn to night in Korea. Come to Incheon, a city whose glistening morning is precious. Gyeonggi